So before we get into the disassemble process on the Galaxy S2 Skyrocket, we'll go over the tools we're going to need for all of the repairs. Now, you may not need all of the tools, but I'll cover them for every chapter just so you have an understanding of what you'll need if you do decide to do every repair. So, first off, we start off with two of the guitar picks. These you use pretty much for everything. So I have two. I have a size 1.5 Phillips head screwdriver. I have two size 2 flathead, and I'll show you on the close-up. One of them has a finer point than the other one. The top one, the point on that is a little finer, and that one I used for getting in tighter places. The bottom one, it's still a small screwdriver. You can see they're both about the same width, but that one I used kind of just for more general places to get in. But if I have to get into a really tight spot, I'll use the top one. So you may want two, one thinner than the other, but those are the two. So I'll use an eraser for cleaning contact points. You can use an eraser to clean those up, so I use that sometimes. I'll use the box cutter to cut the strips of adhesive for the LCD digitizer. So if it doesn't come with its own adhesive, then I'll use the box cutter just to cut the strips. For that, I use an eye loop for inspecting the different parts of the board if there's water damage. If we're doing the volume and power switches, I'll use this to inspect the soldering points on those. I use the toothbrush and rubbing alcohol for some of the water damage repairs. And then if you're going to get into the more extensive water damage repairs, then you want to use the ultrasonic cleaner with the cleaning solution, either liquid or a powdered solution. And then with the soldering repairs, I'll use the solder wick to remove the solder off of the points I'm trying to repair. And then the polyamide heat tape, I'll use this to tape up the boards. This comes in a lot of sizes and lengths, but I tend to find that I believe it's a 50 mil length, but you can get them in all lengths and sizes. So anyways, I use this to tape the board up just to protect the board. And then in addition to this and the soldering wick, obviously I have a soldering station, and I use that to do the power and volume switches and the charging cable repair. So we'll get into the actual. These are off to the side. Didn't see these guys, but I have two tweezers. I have a magnetic and a non-magnetic for different repairs. So anyways, I do use these. I almost forgot that. These are pretty important for getting the cables and plugs off of the board. So yeah, last but definitely not least, those for sure. So we'll get into the repair here. You flip the phone over, and right at the top here there's a little notch. You just want to kind of get in there and pop it back, and then you can pop the 4 notches down at the bottom off of those right there. So you set the battery door side, and then the battery has another notch right here on the left, and you kind of just lift it up and lift it back, and it should slide down. So that's your battery. And then on the back, you will have 7 screws. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So you'll take those 7 screws out, and remember to keep them in order. They may come out on their own, they may not. Some screws are more stubborn than others, and sometimes you can get them out like that. Sometimes they're going to stick in there. So we'll go back with our tweezers and pop all the ones out that didn't come out on their own. But again, you want to keep all the screws in order. It's easier for when you're putting the phone back together. You know exactly where each screw goes. So as you take everything off of the phone, you'll want to put it in order. So the battery door and the battery, and then all the screws go next to that, and then the housing will go next to that, and it just makes your life a lot easier when you're putting everything back together. So these screws are being stubborn, so what we'll do is just get in here with the tweezers and just kind of gently pop them out. And once they're mostly out, you can just kind of get in there at an angle and give them and it helps if you have a magnetic screwdriver. You can just get it and typically get a hold of it, and it should pop it right out. And let's see here. That should be the last one. Once you get those out, what you will want to do is use your guitar pick and go right next to the chrome bezel and the white or black housing, whichever Skyrocket you have. And I'll start in one of the corners typically, kind of maybe on the bottom, and you can find a kind of a crease and just gently work your way up. And you'll feel the housing kind of clicking and snapping off of itself, and every little snap will allow you to get kind of further into it. So you just kind of work it around, work the top, being careful of the volume button. But as you kind of work it around, once you get all those clips off, then you can remove the back. Now if the battery or the volume button comes out, just set that aside, and we'll set our housing down. And once you get here, here's the board. You'll have one more screw right here to remove, so you want to remove that before anything else and keep that in order. And then we'll pop up the antenna cable, so we'll give that a nice, being gentle not to break or damage that at all. And then we'll pop the LCD cable up and the speaker cable and the camera cable. Just get right in the corner, you can pop that up. And then down here we have two more cables. We have the navigation flex cable, and then we also have the charging microphone cable. So just get right in the corner of that, just pop one up, pop the other one up. And it doesn't take much pressure to get those cables up. You can give them just a gentle lift in the corner, and it should release it right off of the board. So once you have all the cables unplugged and they're pushed back, then what you can do is just get right down here in the corner. You give that a little pop. There's going to be a clip right there, a little black clip. And I'll show you back on the close-up here that as long as you're mindful of that little clip right there, you can get in here and usually just move it, and it should pop that up out of the way. So go back to the overhead. And once you get that off, you can just kind of gently wiggle it up, minding the camera, because the camera sits in that little frame right there, and you don't want to pull it down. You'll tear the camera. But once you lift that up and over, you can set your board aside, and that's how you remove the board out of the phone.